Good afternoon. Jordan Peterson has been ridiculously helpful to people in their 20s. Through suggesting they take on responsibility and through telling the truth, he's sending people on a meaningful and productive trajectory. But there are a lot of us who are not in our 20s. What do we over 40 do? Some of us are stuck. Some of us have screwed some things up. I would say that in my late 40s, I managed to sort myself out, and I would like to share some of the things that were helpful and useful to me and possibly can be helpful and useful to you. So this video is called 10 Ways to Sort Yourself Out After 40. Number 1, curb your drug and alcohol habits. You will not be able to progress in your life if you are still beholden to substance abuse. If you're thinking about drinking during the day and you look forward to when you can escape the stress of your day with a cocktail, then you likely have a problem. I'm sorry, I wish I could tell you otherwise. If this is you, then your brain generates an excess of opioids in the presence of alcohol, and you are the type of person who needs to quit. And I mean abstinence. Sorry for the bad news. If you have a drug problem, get into treatment. It's pretty likely your insurance will pay for it if you have insurance. If not, there are some good clinics in the community, and I certainly encourage you to go ahead and do that. AA is very good. It's, a lot of people worry about it because of the higher power aspect of it, but I'll talk about that later. If you smoke, I don't suggest giving up unless you can do it cold turkey. I don't suggest giving up nicotine for the time being. It's a powerful antidepressant, and to give it up might be really frustrating to your efforts. There are numerous ways to take nicotine which don't involve cigarettes. You could start with vaping. It may not be totally safe, but it sure as hell is safer than cigarettes. But the best way to overcome any kind of substance addiction, abuse, is to find something else that is compelling, interesting, and meaningful. And the key to this is meaningful, and that brings us to number 2. Number 2, start reading. Read early and often. Read the hard stuff. The richness of the ideas in books like these will transport you into a mode of thinking in which all the possibilities of human history, culture, science, etc. will be open to you. You will be able to connect with the contents of the minds of the smartest people who ever existed. What a miracle that is. So don't let any preconceived notion of your intelligence stop you. Don't get hung up on all this IQ stuff going on. Throw away that narrative you have about not being able to understand difficult things. Just go slowly if you have to. You don't have to read a book a day. It probably took me months to get through this, reading it on the weekends. I'm sure Beyond Good and Evil was over a month. But I get them now. I did it at my own pace, making sure I understood them. And this intellectual activity can be a powerful substitute for substances. Number 3, write and create. One of the best possible ways to make sense of those hard books you were reading is to write about them and how these ideas are affecting you. Obviously, Jordan has the self-authoring program, which is a great way to get started. And he also has an essay format that will teach you to write a coherent essay. But you don't necessarily even need to do that. Just start writing. John Gatto, who I'm going to put a link to his work, says write 300 words a day, and you can do that. It doesn't matter if it's good, just do it. You'll improve. If you're artistic, you can express these ideas visually through graphic novels, for example. And YouTube can help you articulate things as well, and it doesn't matter if you don't get a lot of attention or subscribers. You will get some attention, and you'll get some feedback, and to know that you're exposing your ideas to others will force you to be as articulate as you can be, and you'll improve. Number 4, dispense with ideology and think for yourself. If you are following a party line, Democrat, Republican, whatever, you think you are, look into the other side, look into all sides. I've already recommended this book, The Righteous Mind. This exposes the different moral frameworks that different people have, and those frameworks are often very deep. They're at the biological level to some extent. I mean, partially informed by biology, so it's important to really understand that there are different moral frameworks in the world. I also recommend Dave Rubin's interview with former NPR director Ken Stern, and that gives great insight into a former party line Democratic liberal who decided to swallow the red pill for a year and emerged a much more complete person. If you are conservative with rigid embodied borders, try to talk to a sane liberal if you can find one, or at least, I know this may not be palatable, but read a little social justice literature and find some small thing you can agree with. Now, I know social justice is an ideology and as a whole should be resisted. But there were some very good ideas before it became an academic end. Before then, there were ideas that made people's lives better. You could read some decent black authors like James Baldwin. Ken Wilber called this social justice problem early on. He called it boomeritis in this book, The Theory of Everything. It's included in here, and that's, the idea that people have that just because they have acknowledged that everyone is equal, that they are somehow superior, and that integrating ideas from the past isn't necessary. It's a big problem. Also, be careful about parroting everything that great minds like Jordan Peterson or Larry Elder or Paul Joseph Watson or Sargon or whoever you like, whatever they say. These are brilliant people with great insight, and follow them, use them, but develop your own synthesis of their ideas or any ideas you find meaningful through the reading and writing projects that you're doing. Number 5, radically improve your diet and exercise. There is compelling evidence emerging that refined carbohydrates are nothing but trouble. They're very hard to avoid. Try to get something, for example, at Starbucks that doesn't have refined carbohydrates in them. But do it. Give up bread and sugar, especially, seriously, especially bread. Try to embrace a paleo-type diet. You can even do that as a vegetarian. I have a friend who has controlled chronic health issues with a vegetarian keto diet. It's difficult, but it's possible. And some people that can help you are like Chris Kresser with the Paleo Cure, in which he attempts to match various approaches to paleo with your genetics, and Dr. George Eade on Psychology Today. Also, Jordan's daughter, Michaela, has an excellent blog, Don't Eat That. She's done a lot of research. It's very, very good. And avoid soy, as it really seems that is adding estrogen in a way that is not helpful to a variety of psychological, physiological, and behavioral factors. Now, exercise, there's no way around this one. This preserves brain function better than anything we know. After 40, yoga and stretching is good for those stiff joints. The goals for exercise is strength, endurance, and flexibility. So pounding your knees running isn't for everyone at this age. Number 6, follow some of Jordan's rules. You can follow all of them, but at least follow these 2. Tell the truth and pay attention. Now, I don't need to say much about Jordan Peterson's work on these issues. There's information available. But if you take anything from Jordan, take those two rules. Truth and attention are the prime virtues, and from these all else that is good proceeds. You can improve your capacity to pay attention through meditation, or you can meditate minute by minute, for example, by just paying complete attention to what someone's saying. A very good exercise from the great and wonderful Carl Rogers is to repeat back to the person you're talking to the gist of what they said, or who's talking to you, the gist of what they said, until they are satisfied that you are getting what they're saying. And this is also very good in achieving number 4, dispensing with your ideology. Number 7, start a side business. There are a lot of things you could do, and the possibilities are opening up rather than closing off. So don't believe that opportunities are minimizing. They're not. Having a side business is a way to give yourself agency if you're stuck in a job, and possibly a way out. You don't even need to make money at first, and of course you can deduct the expenses. If you already have a job, which at age 40 is likely, or 40 plus, use this as a way to explore what else you have to offer the world and enhance your ability to understand what your purpose is in this life. Number 8, educate yourself. You can get a first-rate Ivy League education on the internet. You can take an 80-plus course, Introduction to Philosophy, from Wheaton College, for example. And there are things like edX. They know the resources are so rich at this point. The only reason to pay money for an established curriculum is to obtain the necessary certification to improve your career. IT certification, for example, or an RN, or MSW, which is a very flexible degree if you want to go into counseling, therapy, or human service. You would have to stomach some social justice ideology at some point in that curriculum, but I don't know if it's avoidable anywhere, unless you're doing something in the STEM areas. But you can handle it. Introduce your viewpoint diversity to your classes. Otherwise, university is mostly a ripoff at this point. So be cautious in pursuing anything that costs money. Be absolutely sure it will increase your income. Otherwise, don't bother. Number 9, get into therapy. Even a brief course of therapy will help you sort yourself out with an objective, trained individual who can sense, by being with you in the room and developing a relationship with you, what your strongest self is, and help you connect with that, and also to uncover the unconscious traps and defenses that are getting in your way. If you have a history of trauma or family discord, this is all the more important. It is absolutely critical to do your best to heal childhood wounds, because these wounds will continue to haunt you, even though you don't realize they are, until you pay attention to them. These childhood wounds are arrested at the age they developed, and they don't really have an idea that things are different now. So through therapy, you can actually communicate with these parts of yourself and heal them. Occasionally, things are healed spontaneously through, a spiritual experience, but that's rare. But that takes me to number 10. Number 10, connect with your spiritual dimension. The great Viktor Frankl encouraged healing through connecting with what he called the noetic dimension. This is based on the Greek word nous, and Viktor Frankl's term roughly correlates with spirit. In this dimension, you can observe yourself. In psychology, this is termed the observing ego, and is the essence of all mystical practices of every religion. In this dimension, you can learn to survey your life in an impartial way and figure out what you need and what you need to get rid of. And it also is a way to connect your soul with the totality of being, which is not something to be underestimated. It's at the basis of our experience. You don't need to take up religion necessarily, but there is a lot to be said for having to answer to God and community for some people. You may be that kind of person. And there are many ways to find God through intelligent and insightful guides. In the Christian tradition, for example, look at Jonathan Pageau and the way he gets to the gist of the universal and infinite and eternal symbolism of the Bible. Paul Vanderklay has emerged, the Reform Protestant minister who is using Jordan Peterson's biblical work and other work to inform how he integrates Christianity with what's happening now. In the more contemplative practices, people like the Franciscan monk Richard Rohr and also Cynthia Bourgeault, they're getting more to the experiential essence of what it means to be a Christian. I've not investigated Jewish or Reform Islam equivalent of this, but no doubt it's there. Certainly Rumi and Sufism have a lot to offer, and just as an aside, I probably should have put number 11, learn some philosophy. So that's sort of integrated into this dimension. It's in between the reading number 2 and this spiritual dimension is learn some philosophy or become interested in some philosophy. In terms of spiritual practices, if you're going in another direction, say Buddhism or Eastern practices, choose your guru with caution. There are a lot of charlatans out there. And remember what Jung said, the Eastern way is predicated on a different evolution of consciousness from the Western. So a risk you run with going the Eastern way is getting immersed too fully in this world, and that can lead to something called spiritual bypassing, where you expect to find all the answers to your problems in, say, yoga and meditation. I suggest this book by Mark Epstein, who also understood that problem, and this is a combination of psychoanalysis with Buddhism, and it is a way that Westerners can approach Buddhism, and he's certainly one of the better known Buddhist teachers out there. Also revisit the great Alan Watts in his, for example, his 1960 lectures on KQED that introduce the Tao, Mahayana Buddhism, and Zen to Westerners. I will include links to everything I discussed in the description, and I encourage you to visit some of them. Let me know what you think. And so these are the 10 areas that helped me sort myself out in my late 40s and have allowed me to weather the necessary disappointments and tragedies that both come with age and that are ever present. So I hope that made sense, and I'll see you next time.